This call is being recorded so that my brother-in-law can play it back later and make fun of me. Welcome, everyone, to the Telarus Tuesday call for February 5th, 2019. I'm Doug Miller, the voice of Telarus, joined today by Patrick Oborn, Telarus co-founder and VP of Partner Experience. Patrick is here to present part 3 of his 2019 supplier review, this week featuring our managed IT and security providers, as well as many that defy categorization. We invite you to please log in to the video link and live chat platform where you can see Patrick's presentation today and to submit questions and comments in our Q&A session at the call's conclusion. We have several exciting events going on around the country this week. We hope you'll join us for terrific training from our sponsoring suppliers and time to discuss your business with the Telarus team members near you. Our very popular Telarus Security Boot Camps are back in session this week. Come and join us for deep dive training on security and learn how to change the game as a trusted security advisor. Here's this week's schedule. Today, Tuesday, for our San Diego, California partners, we're at Stone Brewing in Escondido from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. Pacific time. Leading the conversation will be expert presenters from AT&T, Effortless Office, and Consolidated Communications. Escondido today, 10 a.m. until 2. We hope you'll join us. Tomorrow, Wednesday, the Telarus Security Boot Camp takes place in Houston, Texas, at the Papado Seafood Kitchen on Westheimer Road in Houston. We'll be there from 11 a.m. until 3 p.m. Central Time with powerful presentations from IGI, Quest Technology Management, and Office Depot. And if you're in the Dallas, Texas area this Thursday, please join Telarus for the Security Boot Camp in Plano from noon until 4 p.m. Central Time at Maggiano's Little Italy. You'll learn how and why to sell security to your clients from CenturyLink, Office Depot, and Effortless Office. And Telarus is proud to bring back our unique and powerful Tech Talk events. Next Monday, February 11th, we will be in Indianapolis from noon until 2 p.m. Eastern Time at Seasons 52 Wine Bar and Grill, a terrific lunch and very valuable training and case studies on 4G and 5G wireless, hosted services, and data centers. These are hot topics, and the pros from Sierra Wireless, Net2Phone, and Expedient will show you how to add these services to your portfolio. And then next Tuesday, February 12th, all right, I'm willing to excuse our Detroit partners from the live Tuesday calls so that you can attend our Telarus Tech Talk event in Birmingham, Michigan at Toast Restaurant from 9:30 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. Eastern. This event will focus on SIP, SD-WAN, and security with expert training from Comcast Business, Nitel, and NextVortex. Join us. Learn how to increase your payouts with these popular services. These are just a few of our upcoming events. You can check them all out at Telarus.com events. Well, today I have the pleasure of introducing a brand new Telarus supplier. It's Splice Communications, providing local and national IT services for SMBs and enterprise communities. Splice Communications is IT solutions simplified. Whether providing IT help desk, infrastructure management, on-site IT support, or telecom management services, Splice is focused solely on customer service. Joining me today is Kyle Jones. He's the National Sales Director at Splice. Kyle, welcome to our Telarus Tuesday call. We're very excited about the new partnership.
Yeah, thank you, Doug. Happy to be here.
Tell us how this all came about and why our partners should be anxious to sell Splice.
Yeah, so we had an opportunity with a Telarus partner that we ended up closing and submitting to Telarus, which helped, kind of advance us into the supplier portfolio. So, really excited to partner with Telarus and begin working with the community of partners. Like Doug mentioned, I'm Kyle Jones. I'm the National Sales Director at Splice, and I run our channel sales division across the United States. And for those that I haven't met before, Splice is a managed service provider. We deliver IT support nationally and in some cases even globally. And we have multiple delivery centers across the country with a core competency in providing IT help desk support, remote server network management, NOC support and telecom management, on-site support services, data backup and recovery, and remote professional services. So there's a multitude of ways that we can work with you. All of our services are a la carte. And on Thursday, the webinar we'll be conducting, we'll walk through each one of these services, as well as provide you some common customer profiles and qualifying tips that'll help you prospect opportunities with Splice.
There is such a large and growing market for these services as companies continually reinvent themselves, reinvent the way they do business, and reinvent the way that they manage both their in-house services as well as those for clients that they may have as well. Partners who sell this can earn tremendous commissions and do an exceptionally large amount of business. We're pleased to have Splice as one of our brand new suppliers. And Kyle, as you mentioned, Thursday, we're going to introduce our Telarus partners to Splice and the services that they have and how easy it is to sell these services. Our webinar happens Thursday, February 7th, beginning at 11 a.m. Eastern. Kyle, are you presenting that, or do you have other folks there as well?
I will be the presenter for that webinar, so you'll have the pleasure of listening to me again.
Well, this is going to be terrific. We've been very excited about this for a while. It's Splice Communications. They're providing local and national IT services for SMBs and enterprise communities. This is going to be a great partnership. We encourage all of our partners to join us this Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern for the launch and training call. Kyle, thanks so much for being here on behalf of Splice. We look forward to talking to you again on Thursday.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, everybody.
Talk to you soon. Well, as mentioned earlier, today's call features Patrick Oborn, Telarus co-founder and our VP of Partner Experience. Patrick is today presenting part 3 of his 3-part series on Telarus suppliers, with our emphasis today on managed IT, security, and a few of the providers that just defy categorization elsewhere. Patrick, welcome back to the Telarus Tuesday call.
Thank you so much, Doug, for an awesome introduction, as usual. I appreciate everyone being here today. This is Patrick Oborn. I'm the co-founder of Telarus. I'm here to talk to you a little bit today about managed IT, cloud computing, and cybersecurity vendors in the Telarus portfolio. This is part 3 of a 3-part series of Telarus supplier overviews. For those of you who haven't been with Telarus very long, you'll understand that Telarus in its current form is a ongoing organic organization. We're constantly evolving, making sure that we have the products and suppliers that you need to compete in this market. On the first week, we talked a little bit about network. We talked about SD-WAN. We talked about providing that framework upon which everything else rides, that foundation. Last week, we talked a little bit about unified communications and contact center and the massive opportunity that exists there. And today, we're going to talk a little bit about more of where this data is going, how do you store this data, and how do you protect this data. Organizations of all kinds are generating data. Many of them, as you'll see here in the first slide, create that data and they store the data on site in a server closet. This was really the old way of doing things. The way to do things now is a little different. If you look at the data that's stored on a server, that data can really be equated to a company's worth. I mean, without data, companies literally are worthless. So if you look at a company that's worth $50 million, in essence, their data is worth $50 million. Now, if you had $50 million in cash, would you store that data in a closet in your office? Well, hopefully the answer would be no. You would want to put that data in a bank. Well, it's that cash in a bank. Very similar to data. You want to put that data into a secure data center. When you're dealing with data centers, there's going to be an evolution from using your own equipment inside a data center to actually using someone else's equipment in the data center where your data can live. And it can live in either a public cloud or a private cloud. Again, cloud in this sense is one of the most overused terms, but one thing that always makes me laugh, that guy who wears the t-shirt that says cloud, somebody else's computer. That's really all it is. It's dealing and putting your data on someone else's computer. Public cloud is where lots of people are putting data on someone else's computer in one particular instance. Another one is a private cloud, where those physical machines that house your data do not house data belonging to any other companies. It's specifically dedicated to you. And that's really the evolution of mission critical computing, the evolution from the company's closet to the secure data center to the public and private cloud. That's where things are headed. So as you guys go out and you're talking to your customers and you see a company server closet, you gotta ask the customer, what are you keeping in that closet? How important is that data to you? Should we move that to a data center? And for your companies that have large data centers and a guy that goes to the data center every day, you might want to ask them, hey, wouldn't it behoove you to actually check out either public or private cloud, maybe even a hybrid? This is really the migration and the process, the evolution that Telarus takes on our own servers, our own databases, our own web servers, our own email servers. We started on site, and then we got smart, put it in a data center, and now we have it in the Azure cloud. And we have some private clouds as well that we use. This is really the migration. So let's talk a little bit about co-location here really quick and talk about really the different drivers and the different key considerations that you should be talking to when talking about colo to your customers. Number one, geographic considerations. You want to have it close within driving distance. Do you want to have it in an area that you can get to? Geography is key. Now, how do you find the geography? You'll see here on the service map that you can actually see the geography, to see the physical locations of all of the different data centers that both Telarus works with and the ones that Telarus doesn't work with. Again, simply here, you just go into the customer record and click on that tab called Service Map, and out will pop the map of all of the co-location facilities in and around that customer's physical location. You also have physical security considerations. Every data center is rated at a different security setting. The super max ones have biometric scans, fingerprint, iris, retina. I mean, you name it, they scan for it. Other ones have simply just a data key card that you can get in, and everything in between. And of course, the cost varies according to physical security. You have connectivity considerations. Not every carrier connects to every data center. You want to make sure that you use the Telarus tools to make sure that you can match up a company that has fiber at their instance so they can connect directly back to their data center and ride on the same carrier. You have power consumption issues. I did a deal, I helped the agent with a deal a little while ago with Bitcoin, and man, those miners could consume some power, baby. And whenever I talk to data centers, my first question for this one customer was, what's your cost per megawatt? It was all about megawatts, and that was it, because again, they're consuming a tremendous amount of power. In that case, you're going to want to go to a state of the United States that has cheap power. And so that will also be a key driver for some applications. You also have sustainable energy. Some companies want to make sure that the colo that they use is all on green power. We have several of them in our portfolio, including DataBank, which we'll talk about later, and also Digital Realty that are 100% green. You also have temperature considerations. Again, with those miners that were burning a ton of power, they were really hot, and the data centers that we put those machines had to make special accommodations to cool down those machines. So they've got hot aisles, cool aisles, and they really had to put in some extra airflow to pump that hot air out. There's also cross-connect considerations. Some data centers will not charge you for cross-connects. Other ones, it's a huge cost, and literally it's plugging one wire into one switch over to one wire in another switch. And yes, many of them use that as a profit center. And then lastly, future expansion considerations. Is the data center that you're talking to 90% full? Well, if you put a big customer there and they want to grow, well, guess what? Some of their gear might be in the new building out back and not in the adjacent rack. And so there's a lot of things that go into colos that you just need to be aware of. Now, we've got a lot of great colo providers. Our portfolio has expanded enormously in the last few years. We've got Digital Realty, which of course is the old Telex and DFT. Plus, they just raised $7 billion in funding and are building a tremendous amount of new real estate. You got Flexential, which is the combination of Peak 10 and Via West. In fact, Josh Lupresto, our VP of Engineering, sits on the Flexential Advisory Council and can influence them and give them feedback so they can be channel friendly. You also have DataBank, which is the combination of C7 here in Utah and Hosting Edge. You got 365 data centers led by Tony Franke, one of the best guys in the channel. They acquired 16 Equinix data centers and Host.net. They have a tremendous footprint on in the Northeast and Southeast, and are just a tremendous company to work with. Can't speak highly enough of them. You have TierPoint, which of course is the combination of legacy Windstream hosted solution, Cassentry, and a bunch of other providers. They've done a really good job in rolling up that market. And we've got Vanessa Bird, one of our former Telarus team members, who now works at TierPoint. You got Cyxtera, which is really the company that spun off of Savvis / CenturyLink Technology Solutions. Great group of people over at Cyxtera. Zcolo, now get this, they are on just a tear. They purchased Lattices, Core Exchange, Clearview International, Neutral Path, Atlanta NAP, MarqueeNet, KIO data centers, and many, many more. Zcolo is a beast. And of course, we've got a ton of other ones here on the chart that you can see. I can't go over everything today, but again, I just want to get you exposed to some of the main colo providers in our stack. Next, we've got colo providers that provide direct access to public clouds. AWS, which we talked a little bit about in week one. We've got Synoptech, which is, again, our conduit into Equinix. They're Equinix's top partner worldwide. Synoptech does a great job because Equinix is literally everywhere. You got Cologix going into AWS, CoreSite, QTS, Digital Realty, TierPoint. AWS has a lot of great colo providers that connect to it. Microsoft has less in terms of count. I mean, we have Cologix, which again are everywhere, including Canada, Synoptech, and CoreSite. And the reason I bring up the fact that the Cologix is in Canada is because sometimes, rightly or wrongly, you have companies that are afraid that the American government is going to issue a subpoena or issue some type of mandate that they have to turn over their data to the authorities. Many companies are setting up shop in Toronto, just across the border, with Cologix to make sure that their data is safe and secure in a great data center, but also that it's beyond the reach of the United States government. And so lots of different things that I've learned over the years about colo and about their different characteristics that set them apart from each other. And last but not least, we got Alibaba Cloud, again, which is an exclusive Telarus vendor. We're excited to have Alibaba in the stack, and of course Equinix through Synoptech connects to them. Rackspace is also directly integrated with Alibaba Cloud. Next but not least, this is probably the slide that does the most injustice here. So if you're a supplier and you're listening to this call, I apologize in advance. You have the private cloud providers, and this is really just about everybody. You have people who I just mentioned, almost every colo that we offer. Many of them house, again, servers that people pay to be in their data center, but they also are housing their own machines. And on their own machines, they've installed a VMware, they've installed all of these other programs to allow their customers to rent hard drive, CPU, and computing power and RAM from themselves. So the colos themselves are now turning into private cloud providers, but you also have a myriad of other private cloud providers that really don't own their own data centers, but they do own their own gear. And those include IBM Cloud. Now, hear the word IBM. This might be the first you've heard that Telarus is working with IBM. That's because we just signed the agreement not long ago. And Telarus now officially, and we haven't even rolled this out and done all the training, but Telarus officially is an IBM Cloud partner. We're very excited for that taking place. We've also got Greenhouse Data, which is a tremendous private cloud provider. Steadfast, Sky Data Vault, which is probably one of our go-to places for storing inexpensive files in the cloud, in their private cloud. You also have Evolve IP, Rackspace, RapidScale Quest, Unitas Global, New Cloud Networks, which was one of our first private cloud providers, and Thrive Networks, which is one of our most recently signed cloud providers. A lot going on the private cloud space. Again, that's a place where you can store your data on someone else's machine, where they do not dedicate that instance, that virtual instance, to any other clients. That totally belongs to you. Next, cloud application providers. We have people in our portfolio that allow us to get access to Microsoft products, that allow us to get access to Oracle products, that even allow us access to Salesforce.com through Rackspace. SAP, we've got other very, very good cloud applications that we can get to. You can see on this list that everywhere from AT&T and CenturyLink, that might surprise you. Navisite, probably one of our biggest providers that we do the most Microsoft cloud with. That includes Office 365, Azure, the whole stack. Effortless, Phoenix Snap. When I saw Phoenix Snap at first, I thought, man, is that just the data center that's in Phoenix? No. It's actually a whole layer of global IT services that they've rolled out that is way more than just a data center. And TPX is a very interesting one. TPX keeps showing up, and you're going to see a definite theme evolve around TPX and their real thrust on their IT managed services portfolio and cybersecurity portfolio. It's not just your old Telepacific. Moving right along, we've got cloud migration specialists. You may have a client that says, you know what? I do have all my crap in a closet. So what are you going to do about it? Well, in this case, and you see the picture of the mover, you've got to move all of that data from their prem into the cloud. In some cases, it's a manual lift because there's so much data on those servers that just piping it over the internet could take days or weeks because the internet connection isn't fast enough. There may be a situation where you need to come in and make a tape backup and upload that to the cloud or whatnot. So we've got companies that really specialize in professional services engagements that help customers move all that data into the cloud, most notably Synoptech, which again, we talked about them being really the conduit to Equinix, but Synoptech is really a high grade enterprise IT shop. You got Unitas Global that will help your customers move. New cloud networks, Quest. Quest is one of those companies that just can really do everything IT related. They've been a tremendous asset in our portfolio. Of course, we just mentioned Rackspace on the applications. Rackspace also does a great job of helping customers move into the cloud. But there's also one, NTT America. And someone might think, why the Japanese company in this slide to help people migrate to the cloud? What many people don't realize about NTT is that they acquired Dimension Data. And Dimension Data was one of the largest VARs and still is one of the largest VARs on the planet. And they have really made a cottage living out of moving people into the cloud. Next, we've got IaaS. That would be infrastructure as a service. And we have a lot of companies that offer that. But basically, well, what's infrastructure as a service? Basically, I want to have a data center, but I don't want to own all the gear. How can I go and basically build a data center on a monthly model? Well, we've got everything from Alibaba Cloud Steadfast, which is one of our newest providers. They do a tremendous job. Phoenix Snap, again, and TPX popping up like I said they would. Greenhouse Data has a tremendous product as well as Effortless. And again, 365 Data Center. So if you want to set up a virtual data center, those are great companies to call. Next, in the as theme as a service, we've got desktop as a service. This is really critical to companies that have lots of employees. There is no way that they can keep all of the private data, the proprietary data, where it needs to be unless all of that data is centralized and you use desktop as a service really to view the data, but all of that data lives inside that private cloud. And so if an employee gets terminated or something changes, all an administrator has to do is just turn off that person's login. Next time they open up their laptop and they go to log into the desktop as a service, access denied. You don't have to worry about getting that machine back. You don't have to worry about that employee downloading a list of customers they're not supposed to have. The whole administration of that is centralized. And so really, even though we call it desktop as a service, it's really kind of managed IT as a service in a lot of ways because it really functions as the IT service. Dision is one that really does a great job and is a relatively new vendor. RapidScale, NuvaStack focuses primarily on desktop as a service. You also have Evolve IP, Effortless Office. Effortless is 100% focused on desktop as a service. And you also, again, have New Cloud, one of our first cloud providers. Moving right along, we've got disaster recovery. What does that mean? That means something bad happened. We need to do a full restore to get back on our feet. And it's not necessarily having data in the cloud as a backup. That is fantastic. You got a backup. Congratulations. Good for you. But if disaster strikes, what's the fastest way that you can get your company back on its feet, right? You need specialized on-prem hardware. You need some specialized systems to move that data quickly so that you can go back and either do a bare metal restore or at least get your servers back to where they need to be so that your employees can operate. Several companies in here, again, IBM Cloud. You're going to see a lot of these same people, Evolve IP, Phoenix Snap, 365 Data Centers, Greenhouse Data, Quest, Thrive, Unitas. There are a lot of great companies that can help people get back on their feet. Again, it's not the fact that you have the data, but if it takes you 3 days to pull that data back out of the cloud and get back online, 3 days is unacceptable. And so really what you'll see in disaster recovery, or DRAS, you'll see prices really change proportionate to the amount of throughput that you got. Because the more throughput you can have, the faster you can get back on your feet. Because again, with disaster recovery, it's all about time, mean time to repair, or time to get back on your feet. We also have managed IT as a service. This is basically company computer guy as a service. A lot of companies out there still today, they do IT by committee. Telarus was like that for many, many years. We all kind of did something. We need a new computer. We just go to the store and buy one, and nothing's really centralized. We don't really have centralized patch management. People get viruses, and we just kind of deal with it. Office Depot through CompuCom is one of the largest MSPs in the country, and now you can sell managed IT services for basically $100 a person, and they will go in, they will do break fix, they will do desktop, they'll do printer drivers, they will do inside wiring, local area networking, they will do firewall service, everything in the realm of IT that a company needs. You can go in, but more importantly, you can earn some good commissions. This actually pays more residuals than telecom does, and that's managed IT as a service. You also have Synoptech and Unitas and some of your larger deployments. Again, a lot of these scale by employee size. Unitas, not super interested in deals under $5,000 because they have a really high-end solution that is fantastic. We're Office Depot. There's 5 employees. That's $500 a month. Boom, sell it, get your commission. I mean, it's almost easier to make money in the managed IT space as it is a network. I mean, it's a pretty decent connection at $500. Over here, 5-person company is $500 in IT. Companies spend a lot more money on IT than they do on bandwidth. Moving right along, we have physical security as a service. This is video cameras. This is scanners for people's ID, access and remote entry. Everything that you can have in physical security. A lot of companies out there, they have to have security cameras. And so we have companies that go out and will install the cameras. They will hook everything up over, of course, a broadband connection. They will store those videos in the cloud so that the customer can have those for insurance purposes. And as you see here in the picture, they even have apps where a manager can log in and see into all of his stores at once. It's a tremendous service. We have 2 companies that really focus on physical security as a service and do a fantastic job. And we've recently had some great wins with each of them. That's Comcore and Your 6. I love the Your 6 name, like we got your 6, we got your back, up in Minneapolis. Those guys do a tremendous job. But again, Comcore and Your 6, physical security as a service. Now, I haven't gone through everything, okay? I've gone through quite a bit. It is fire hose time, but if you missed anything or want to know more about some of these products, go to cloudcomputingmatrix.net. Again, that's cloudcomputingmatrix.net. If you can't remember cloudcomputingmatrix.net, you can always go to your Telarus back office and under the matrices, click on Cloud. The second way you can access this matrix is on your phone. Just pull out the Telarus app, click on matrices, and then click on Cloud Matrix, and you'll see the same exact matrix. Now remember, you can click on the different columns to freeze those panes. If you click on the columns, you're going to see the different carriers or providers disappear that do not offer that service. So again, click on the columns. It's clickable. It allows you to sort. and find providers in just seconds. Now, transitioning into the second half of the training, again, we'll make this brief, but just know that we're going to talk about cybersecurity. And let's start off with just a couple of quick stats about cybersecurity. 73% of top security professionals think it's likely that organizations will suffer a major breach within the next 12 months. Telarus, we have been targets of breaches. It is a tough business, and I can tell you as a business owner, it's something that does keep us up at night. Having your data get out there, having our customers' data get out there, we can't have that happening, and we know that with the amount of money flowing through Telarus, we know that we are a target. Almost every business out there is a target, but 73% of the people think that they're likely to suffer a breach. 100%, I hope, of all the CIOs out there will think that they're going to be targeted. It is like having a garden. You cannot have a garden on this planet Earth without having a weed pop up. There are so many seeds in the air blowing around, you're liable to have a weed. It's the same thing in the cyber world. It's just the interconnected world we live in. Everyone will be a target, whether they're a direct target or whether they're just Autobots trolling around like a seed in the wind looking to find a fertile ground to grow. Somewhere, somehow, every company will be targeted. But the problem that most companies have is that they don't have the staff, they don't have the resources to really withstand those attacks. Now, there are some staggering stats that I found recently. One of them is that 170 days is the average it takes to detect an advanced attack. That means almost half a year passes by before you even realize, whoopsie, looks like we've been breached. That's alarming. And when that is even discovered, it takes 39 more days to contain that attack. And then it takes 43 days after that. So basically what you have to do is contain it, and then you still have to get rid of it. And that's 43 extra days to remediate. That's a staggering amount. If you're a business owner, which we all are, I hope that would alert you and kind of raise your eyebrows a little bit to the risks that we face. Now, there are different security trade-offs that everybody has to manage. Number one, the risks are never totally eliminated. The challenge is to make the right trade-offs to manage your specific business risk given your resources and your priorities. You have to figure out how to spend efficiently on cybersecurity, and that comes with setting the right priorities. So how do you determine what your customers' priorities are? First, you need to take a look at your risk and your assets. You've got non-critical assets. You don't necessarily need to pay a ton of money to secure those. You have other assets that are business productivity. Yeah, if you lose time, right, that's really a hit to your organization. But last but not least, you've got critical revenue generating assets. Those things are worth spending money. It's like similar to car insurance. If you've got a Yugo, you don't need to go get the premium top of the line insurance. You might just have liability insurance. If you crash your Yugo, you just go buy another Yugo. It's no problem. But you just want to make sure that if someone gets hurt and goes to the hospital, you're not out millions of dollars. But when you have mission critical, mission generating assets, like say, for example, you're a truck transportation agency, right? You want to have pretty good insurance on those trucks, because if those trucks aren't driving on the road, you're not making money, which means essentially you're out of business. And so the major revenue generating assets for a company typically are their customer information. Now, when we talk about cybersecurity, cybersecurity comes in layers. We can't just throw a blanket and say cybersecurity covers everything. It's a very layered approach. There are several layers starting with the network. First, you want to keep the bad guys out of your perimeter. You want to keep them out of your house. You don't want to mess with them. Second, you want to guard the platform, and you can do that with antivirus patching software, security-specific applications, etc. Next, you've got the application layer. You want to make sure that your coding and your source code isn't getting messed with, because then the person can turn your own machine into a nasty automated robot that's doing nefarious things. Next, you have your data. You want to keep the bad guys away from your data. Again, we all know what happens when data is stolen and sold. And then lastly, response. You want to make sure if the bad guys are in your environment that you know about it, that there are alarm bells. And even putting alarms in between servers, for example. So if one of your servers is talking to another server and something is off, there is an alarm bell. So just because the hackers got into one element of your system, they can't then penetrate all the other elements of your system. So there, again, lots of layers to this. Let's just talk about a few layers real fast, starting with the firewall, because the firewall is really where a lot of us are going to live. We're going to go in here and talk to our customers about firewalls. That's really the first question. Mr. Customer, what are you using for your firewall? There are several firewalls out there. There's Cisco Meraki, there's Cisco ASA, there's Palo Alto. Fortinet is really a popular version. If your customers need these firewalls as a service, we have many providers that will provide this for you. First with Meraki, you got CBTS over in Cincinnati. Those guys are a tremendous, tremendous Cisco shop. And you've got CenturyLink. What? CenturyLink? Those guys are a phone company. What the heck are they doing offering managed firewall? Well, I don't hope it's not a newsflash to everyone, but many of these big phone companies have invested heavily in their security and their cloud infrastructure managed services portfolio. Again, Fortinet, that TPX keeps coming up again, managed Fortinet with TPX. AT&T and CenturyLink also doing great things with Fortinet. Palo Alto, one of the most popular firewalls out there, is offered by CenturyLink. And lastly, the Cisco ASA. AT&T carries almost every version of Cisco ASA. So when you're talking to your customers and they need that hardware, don't just let them go to their local distributor and buy it. You can offer it as a service. So again, they avoid the big CapEx expense. You can come in and bring in that firewall service as an OpEx. We also have virtual firewalls. What's a virtual firewall? Well, before the web traffic actually gets to the physical site of your customer, you can route all of that traffic through one centralized location, and you can put on what's called a web application firewall on the front end of it. Adtran and OmniNet and Nodeware and even Imperva have awesome web application firewalls. They have, and my friends at OmniNet, for example, have Andrew. He shared with me a statistic where he said over 70% of a company's inbound web traffic is junk. He's like, so it's funny that people spend all this money on SD-WAN. They spend all this money prioritizing all their traffic to make sure that everything goes smoothly, when if they could just filter out the 70% of inbound junk on the front end, they would have a lot less stress on their system. He's like, so a lot of times companies don't need more bandwidth necessarily if they could just filter out, again, all of those probes, all of that junk traffic that comes in on the front end with a web application-based firewall. They could clean all of that up. Now, there are a lot of things we could talk about in the firewall world. So what I want to talk about is really the four major layers or steps of cybersecurity. Number one is prevention. We talked a little bit about prevention a couple slides ago when we talked about the firewall. It's really in the house example. It's are you locking the doors? Are you making sure that people that don't have a key can't get in your house? You know, it's pretty easy. The next step, though, is detection. If somebody is in your house, how would you know? Well, in a house scenario, what's a detector, right? It's a home alarm. If someone actually opens the door without the right key, the alarm goes off and sounds come, and the police and fire just come and turn off your thing and don't really come. Anyway, detection is critical. Now, we have a lot of providers in our portfolio that can do that. Nitel, CenturyLink that we just mentioned, Masergy, Megapath, which is now Fusion, TPX, there's that TPX again, Navisite, Nettel, Windstream. So again, knowing that some bad guys are in your office or in your network is critical. When we talk to our partners at boot camps, you know, one of the things that we teach them is to ask the customer this one simple question. If there was a bad guy in your network, how would you know? How would you know? Because all it takes is for one employee to click on one phishing email to open up some port in your firewall for inbound web traffic, and in come the bad guys. How would you know that they're in there? Do you have software that can look for anomalies, look for weird traffic, look for weird IP addresses that are accessing your system? How would you know? Well, once you do know, you then react. How can you have a counter response? There are companies, again, in here, we mentioned AT&T, Rackspace, but we got QTS, TierPoint, RapidScale. Some of these cloud infrastructure providers are very, very good at reacting. You've got Sixtera, Imperva, and Thrive. One of the major things in cybersecurity is DDoS attack. That's distributed denial of service attack. That's when somebody hits your web server or IP address so many times per second that the physical limitations of the server are reached, and that server can now no longer communicate with anybody else. So it, in essence, just busies, it talks your server to death until it can't function. DDoS attacks are rampant, and again, there are lots of providers we have in our portfolio to help you adapt. One of those providers is IGI, Quest, and HTG and Thrive. They do a fantastic job, but one of the best people, again, at mitigating huge attacks is Imperva. We've done some deals with Imperva lately, and with Imperva in place in front of your network, you can withstand an attack from the North Koreans. I mean, this type of technology is not cheap, but for the larger customers, you can withstand a state-sponsored attack. You also have some new things in here. Cylance, what the heck? Cylance is an AI, basically a robot that is smart, and she goes around the network, and she just basically, like a guard dog, just sniffs around for bad guys. And that is available through Verizon in our portfolio. You also have Alien Vault, which is in our portfolio through AT&T, who bought Alien Vault. And you have lots of other things, especially through IBM. So we have some industrial strength cybersecurity, and we have mid-level. Now, speaking of mid-level cybersecurity, this is where a lot of you guys can get a quick start. One of the best ways to get a quick start is to have a conversation with your clients saying, let's kick off 2019 with a little bit of cybersecurity information. If you will allow me to do a free network assessment, I will provide you in 2 days' time a write-up and an assessment of your cybersecurity risk profile. Now, how are you going to do a free assessment, a free cybersecurity profile? You contact CenturyLink. Dominic Singer, he is your man. I've done several of these this year already. These things are awesome because guess what happens? They almost always find something that your customer needs to focus on, something that your customer needs to do. Again, Dominic Singer, his cell phone number is 720-545-4675. Please write that down. Please text him. Dominic, Patrick gave me your cell phone number. He says I need to talk to you about a free cybersecurity assessment for my customers. You can also email him and his team at indirectsecuritysales@CenturyLink.com. That's indirectsecuritysales@CenturyLink.com. Again, why CenturyLink for a free cybersecurity assessment instead of some cyber company? Well, here's the deal about CenturyLink. Over 85% of world global internet traffic touches their network. They see where the bad guys are coming from. They see where the bad guys are targeting. They have a complete log of all the internet traffic basically in the world for the last 60 days. They can run your customer's IP address against that log and have an amazing report for you and your customers that you can sit down and now you can have really an introductory cybersecurity conversation with your customer. This is what I've been telling agents to do, especially agents that have never talked to their customers about cybersecurity before. It's cybersecurity on training wheels. So again, offer your customers a free CenturyLink security assessment. In it, you'll be talking about adaptive network security, adaptive threat intelligence, and again, what I just mentioned, DDoS mitigation. Now, if you want more information, again, go to the security matrix, and that's at cybersecuritymatrix.net. Again, you can get there through your back office, click on cybersecurity. You can also, of course, get there on your Telarus app. So hopefully, if you haven't downloaded the Telarus app, you will go to the store and do that immediately. Now, there is also a cyber security marketing toolkit. That's where you can go and you can find flyers that you can send your customers. You can find talk tracks. You can even find videos that we recorded that don't have the Telarus logo on them. If you would like to use our videos to educate your customers about cybersecurity, please go and help yourself to the cybersecurity marketing toolkit. Also, on the Telarus sales engineering bench, we have engineers that are geographically based, but each engineer we have on our team focuses on a specific product set. Josh Lupresto, our VP of engineering, and that's jlupresto at Telarus.com. He is the engineer on our bench that specializes in cloud computing. He is Amazon certified or AWS certified. He knows the different clouds. He knows different workloads. He knows distributed workloads. He knows hybrid cloud. He knows colo. He knows just about everything there is to know about cloud. He's really an amazing person, and he shows very well in front of your customers. For cybersecurity, we've got the one, the only Brad Coons out in California, and his email is bcoons, and that's BKUNZ as in ZE at Telarus.com. Brad is a CCISP or CCISP, a cloud cybersecurity, CISSP, excuse me. I'm getting all my initials and all my alphabet all mixed up. It's already a long week and it's only Tuesday. Brad is our resident expert on all things cybersecurity. Again, he can sit down, he can talk to your customers about their security posture. The posture, again, is just a fancy name for their plan. What are they doing now? What do they need to do? Where are their holes? Again, if you have your customer conduct a free cybersecurity assessment from CenturyLink, you will have some data that you can then bring Brad in and have a conversation. So I hope that you learned today a little bit more about the Telarus cloud and cybersecurity portfolio. Again, the ton of vendors there. This is a lot to get your mind around. I know. I apologize for going so fast. I know your time is precious and valuable, but just know that Telarus has what you need to get the job done in both cloud and cybersecurity. We've got the engineers that you need to get the job done from both cloud and cybersecurity, and we have the automated tools and marketing toolkits that you need to really educate your customers and have those conversations get going. So with that, Doug, again, I apologize. I'm headed to Denver in 1 minute. I got to go grab that flight. So thank you for just everybody for being here today. Thank you for working with Telarus. We appreciate your business more than you'll ever know. We're so excited to have these resources and to invest back in the company so that we can have the resources you need to get into some of these newer areas. These areas are new, they're hot, the swim lanes have really evaporated. And so with that, Doug, I'm going to turn it back over to you. And I understand that we have the one, the only Bob Greeno, our engineer on the Southeast, that's here to answer your questions as I get on this airplane. Again, thank you, everybody. Doug, I'll go ahead and turn the mic over to you. Thank you so much, everyone.
You are correct, sir. Patrick, thank you for your presentation, not just today's, but for 3 consecutive weeks of valuable information about our suppliers, helping us understand who they are, what they offer, and how to determine the correct solutions for each client's unique needs among the many available options. As Patrick runs to catch his plane, we are now joined for our Q&A session by none other than Telarus Cloud Sales Engineer Bob Greeno. Bob is based in sunny Florida. We all wish we were there. Bob, thanks for joining. Patrick set the table once again for a terrific discussion about our managed IT, security, co-location, and just about everything else is on the table today. Such an important part of our partners' business. How can Telarus partners take best advantage of the Telarus resources to build these areas of their practices? We've seen some of the matrices. We know about the resources in-house. Partners got a question. Where do they start, Bob?
So can you hear me okay, first and foremost?
You sound great.
Outstanding. So first place to start, one of the main questions, how do I engage a sales engineer, or when do I engage a sales engineer? Really, whenever you feel comfortable engaging us. As engineers, we'll be the first to tell you that we're kind of control freaks, so we'd like to be involved early and often. But really, it's up to you. If you think you can run with it early enough, that's just fine. Or if you want to bring us in from the very beginning, we like that too. How to get in touch with us? You're more than willing to reach out to us directly, of course, but typically the route goes from your PSM or even your RVP. They have access to our calendars. They can see, hey, we might be on a flight, so I'm not going to go with Bob. I'll go get Brad or something of that. something like that. But yeah, reach out to your PSMs, your inside support people, or even your RVP, and they'll be able to get a hold of us. Likewise, you can reach out to us directly as well.
Let's go right back to the start. We do have a few questions and comments from our partners, and I want to make sure to get these in if we can so everybody can take advantage of these. Pete Caruth started things off with a question, fairly basic, but I think there are people that have this question. How do we most easily define public versus private, especially when talking to a client?
Sure. So basically, it comes down to the equipment, whether it's dedicated or whether it's a shared resource. So if you're going with a private public cloud, I'll start there first. Basically, what you're doing is you're taking advantage of the data center providers' facilities, right? Those super hardened, super highly available facilities. You're taking your equipment, you're putting it in a cage somewhere in their data center and doing maybe a cross connect or something like that. You'll have your own servers, your own firewall, sometimes even your own direct connection to the internet. So and it's usually on you to manage that as well. You're, like I said, you're basically using their facilities, although there are some that will manage it for you. The difference is it's not shared with any other providers. Going over to the public cloud there, that's kind of like a shared resource, okay? So everything we know and love, if you wanted to spin up an app on a server or an instance in AWS, you pay by the usage, that sort of thing. It's not dedicated to you. That virtual machine is your instance, but you're probably sharing processing power and memory and all those other things with some other customers.
We just had a question come in from Matt Peckinpah, and I'm going to bounce around between subjects here a little bit, but it's a good question. Patrick was talking extensively about managed IT providers, and Matt's asking, do we have anybody that we know of that combines managed IT, MSP services, along with e-marketing, such as web development, SEO, and so forth?
Sure. So that the third one, the e-marketing, web development, SEO, that's a bit of an outlier as far as our providers go. Sometimes it'll take two, but really Quest and CompuCom are probably the two places we would look there. At Quest, we call them our anything as a service type thing because I have yet to be able to stump them. And same with CompuCom, really. They've just been fantastic.
And just for a lot of folks who may not be familiar, this is Quest, Q-U-E-S-T, Quest Technology Services, not to be confused with CenturyLink's former name, correct?
Absolutely correct. Yep.
Very good. Now, Patrick talked extensively about co-location, and he mentioned some of the qualifications that we look at when you're trying to decide where and how to establish a co-location service, many of which we're familiar with: geographic, physical security, connectivity. But it's important to realize that these are not necessarily as important for every customer. Certain industries are going to have more geographic requirements, while others, you mentioned the Bitcoin example, for example, have power consumption requirements.
Mm-hmm.
How is a partner going into a business best able to discover what those needs are so that they can be properly addressed?
Well, first and foremost, it's asking those very pointed, direct questions. What is very important to you? Is it geographic? Is it important to you to be geographically close? To give you, for instance, a lot of the government agencies, and I'm not going to say so much the DOJ or DOD, but some of the other ones, especially the contractors, they want their stuff close to DC. So you might be looking at a McLean, Virginia data center provider or something of that nature. Others, they might not really care as much as far as location goes, but still ask these direct questions. It's going to depend on whatever vertical your customer is in, whether that's healthcare, whether that's like I said, government, whatever it happens to be. Healthcare, geographic isn't going to be a thing, but you're going to want those certifications, right? You want to make sure that they're HIPAA certified. You're going to make sure that, if it's a financial industry, you're going to look for a data center that has all the PCI certifications and that sort of thing. So those are the questions you want to ask. Basically, first and foremost, why do you want to go to a hosted provider or a co-location? And secondly, again, just going down a list of geographic and, certifications and all that sort of thing.
It seems like just about everyone is putting AAS on the end of their type of service that they provide. Patrick alluded to that during his presentation, and so many things are offered now as a service. Are there some in your mind, Bob, from your perspective, which are particularly hot and or important at this point?
So the security conversation that Patrick had, that seems to be, I'd have to say probably 60% of my conversations. Everybody wondering kind of what do we do with security? What can be done as a service? What has to be kind of kept, on-prem, so to speak, and customer managed? And now that answer is a lot easier to answer. Now it's pretty much anything security related can be done as a service. unless you're talking about local disk encryption, obviously, right? That's not a service that we can offer, like a managed cloud service. But really, the security conversation is the big one right now.
I want to go back to one of the slides that we had up during Patrick's presentation. I just sent Steph a message, slide 23, where we talk about the cybersecurity product intro, that is. This is one that I think everybody should print out and keep, and it will be available, of course, on our recorded presentation. But this is where Patrick talked about the different levels, if you will, that we have to take a look at: the network, the platform, the application, the data, and the response. I think this is where many partners begin to have questions. It begins to get very complex for them. Patrick mentioned the need that, nearly 73% of everyone agrees that cybersecurity is an issue for them, but it's a continually changing landscape. It isn't just something that you fix and then you're done. And breaches may not be detected for as long as 6 months after they occur. As you take a look at the various layers here, where does someone who's interested in establishing cybersecurity begin, and how deeply within this do they need to go?
So they really need to go, if they're starting from a holistic approach, so they're, it's kind of like their first introduction to the customer, that's their initial conversation. You want to look at all these layers. Kind of the logical place to start would be, at the perimeter, at the firewall, ask what their posture looks like there. But really stepping down through those, what everybody is after is that soft, chewy center. And what that is the data. Okay. They're not really interested, unless they're setting up like a botnet army or something like that. Most of them are interested in customer records. Okay. So whether that happens to be personally identifiable information, like, name, social security number, date of birth, credit card information, and CVV numbers, that sort of thing. That's really what most people are after. That's going to have the biggest financial impact because they can resell that, right? And they can make money off of that. So after kind of looking at the perimeter, I would start at the kind of that soft, chewy center, ask what they're doing to secure those databases that they have. If they're storing customer data, how are they securing that? And then some of the other questions that were asked, and if that was compromised, would you even know, or who would know?
Patrick mentioned that the first question that is often asked as we do our cybersecurity webinars and our live presentations is, if there were a bad guy in your network, how would you know? That seems to be the start of everything, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. I can't tell you how many, even shamefully, one of the places that I worked before, we had been compromised. It went back almost a year before anybody really figured it out. And it just happened to be some slight anomaly in traffic leaving the company that kind of tipped somebody off, and it just kind of unraveled from there. So really leaning on a service provider to kind of make that a proactive thing, whether it's a SIM type environment, security event incident management, where it's proactively monitoring those logs for any anomalies. That's probably going to have the biggest impact there so it doesn't go as 6 months, a year, or something like that.
So in terms of additional Telarus resources that our partners should be familiar with, certainly the sales engineering team, Josh Lepresto, our VP of Engineering, he's got a full team of engineers nationwide. You're in Florida, Brad Coons out in California. We've got engineers scattered all across the country. We've got the various matrices that were mentioned during Patrick's presentation. And of course, marketing has the cybersecurity marketing toolkit and other toolkits available in our partners' back office. Bob, it seems like there's just really no reason why partners shouldn't feel absolutely confident in starting this conversation with their clients.
Absolutely correct. And again, if you need anybody, lean on your resources, lean on people like myself and Brad, and bring us into the conversation early and often. We are here for you. So our entire existence is to support you in your goals.
We are just about out of time. Bob, this is your first time on our Telarus Tuesday call. Anything that you want to either add or clarify with Patrick's presentation? Give you the last word here.
Actually, Patrick was pretty spot on, and I always love listening to him present, because even I learn something every now and then, especially the relationships with some of our suppliers. We don't always get to see that as engineers, kind of how long we've been working with them and that sort of thing. So always great to hear Patrick present.
Last question we had, can we have the gentleman's name and contact? That is in Florida, you bet. That is Brad Coons. I'm sorry, no, in Florida. That's Bob Greeno, Greenough. And you can reach Bob at bgreeno@Telarus.com. Sounds like you've got either a fan or a question coming up, Bob. Hey, we really appreciate your time on the phone today. Patrick had to leave us to catch his plane, but thank you very much for your expertise and your willingness to jump on the call. Our nationwide team of provider-agnostic engineers really are one of the best resources I have ever worked with that can help partners with one of these lucrative and fast-growing opportunities. They truly are dedicated to your success. Bob, thank you so much. We look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Thank you, sir. Looking forward to it as well.
All right. And special thanks again to Patrick Oborn, Telarus co-founder, VP of Partner Experience, for all the effort in preparing and delivering this 3-week special series. He has spent hours and hours and hours. All of these are available for replay in your Telarus Partner back office. We encourage you to take advantage of this valuable information. And our thanks to each of you for your participation and attendance today. Suggestions for our call, please send them to marketing@telarus.com. We're back next Tuesday with even more. Until then, I'm Doug Miller, the voice of Telarus. Have a great selling week, everyone.